what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome into the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network, your destination for Los Angeles football and obviously your home for Los Angeles Rams football. Season's over, but the offseason is just beginning. Sometimes that means the fun is just beginning. It's going to be a tremendous offseason, all offseason long here at the LA Football Network. Tons of coverage for your Rams. Senior Bowl coming up. Rams have a first-round draft pick. I mean, this is the first time we get to talk about a first-round pick. For now, we'll see if that changes, but we have stuff of that free agency coming up. Obviously, some big names in free agency on the Rams and not on the Rams who they can go after. The Combine's coming up after that, or the Combine, I guess, will be right after or right before free agency opens, but just kind of piggybacking off that and obviously the draft. So tons of stuff to get into. Today, we're going to talk, some awards were given out or announced from Pro Football Writers of America. I'm not the NFL honors, so not the true, I guess, Rookie of the Year and stuff, but some of those, still symbolic gestures, I guess, if you will. So we'll talk about some of that and some other things as we get into it. But as always, let me welcome in the co-hostess with the mostest, repping a beautiful LAFB hoodie you can get at your local LAFBnetwork.com store. By local, I mean you got to go to LAFBnetwork.com, go to the LAFB locker room. But my man, Skinny T, what's up, brother?
Man, I'm doing good. We were talking Super Bowl Radio Row. We're talking Combine Trip. We're talking all these fun and exciting things we get to do as members of sports media. But I do feel a little bit slighted. You talking down to the Pro Football Writers of America, an institution of 60 years that I belong to, proud member of the association.
You have a card, right?
So, I don't have a card. I
You
need a
just
card.
We got to make you one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna print one up. I have emails. I have proof. I paid dues, so that's all in there. But these awards are, I voted. I voted across the board. And tried to get everything. Okay. The only one I couldn't think of was who was the comeback player of the year. I couldn't think of who that should be. Like the odds are like Joe Flacco winning that. And I don't know if that's like necessarily a comeback player of the year, but yeah.
Is DeMar Hamlin still on that list? Is he still the favorite, or did it kind of taper down after the season went on?
I think he's probably still up there. I think I saw his name up there as well, but I don't know if he played much for the Bills.
He didn't. He was like the de facto winner when you almost die and come back, I guess. And I'm not saying that lightly, but in terms of play, he probably didn't deserve it, but anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, I didn't know you actually voted too. That's awesome. Congrats. How was that process like?
They have a ton of lists. So they have, you pick your main awards, just the bullet points, and then you go through, all NFL, all NFC, all AFC, all rookie team. So it's, it took a little while, and I like to give it some thought, and I don't like, me, I got to go with like some hipster picks. I don't want to just go chalk. I like to find, some guys that are maybe, not going to get a lot of votes, like Trey Hendrickson. I voted for him for, all NFL. I thought he had a really great year, and, some of the underlying metrics for him really pointed it out. But, you look at who got, all rookie, and they kind of went all chalk. For the rookie picks, denied Kobie Turner defensive rookie of the year. I think that was that was one big snub, and then Puka Nacua was he did not make the all NFL honors from the Pro Football Writers, and he didn't get even first team all NFC either. But Kobie Turner, that's the big one. I think Will Anderson, third overall pick, had a good year. I think the more interesting one was, for us anyway, was CJ Stroud versus Puka Nacua. And CJ Stroud, I think that race came down to the wire, and I think CJ Stroud is going to get that award. Did a fantastic job, and then continued to prove it in the playoffs. For me, Kobie Turner is just was a better defender as a rookie, regardless of who you're playing next to. Lower draft pick, but just had a really phenomenal season, and really came on in the later half of the season and really pushed, and just from a numbers standpoint, he's above Will Anderson and just a lot of the counting metrics. So what are your thoughts on kind of those two snubs?
Yeah. Just to let everyone know, they did, all those guys mentioned, Puka, Kobie, including Byron Young, and I think that was it. They did make the all rookie team. So they weren't on that. But yeah, I'm a little surprised Puka didn't make, all NFC team or anything like that. But yeah, I truly, I know the Puka CJ Stroud is a volatile conversation. And, Rams fans will all say Puka, and probably the rest of the NFL fans will say CJ. I get it. We've talked about that ad nauseum, so I don't need to get into that. But the Kobie Turner one, I mean, and let me ask you this before I even talk about the numbers, as Mia's coming to say hi here. I mean, do you think it is mostly just draft bias? I mean, a 3rd round pick versus a 3rd overall pick? Because to me, the numbers, just look at the numbers, and it's like almost categorically across the board, Kobie Turner has won. And not to mention, dude's got some pipes singing the national anthem last night at the LA Kings game. Shout out Rams night at the Kings game here in Los Angeles, repping LA. And he sang the Natty. Love that, the national anthem. But just when you look at the numbers, it's like he's better. So is this just a case of bias by draft stock?
Well, you look at any election, whether that be a political election or voting for this kind of thing, name recognition is always going to get you a lot further than numbers are, and Will Anderson, everybody from sea to shining sea is knows Will Anderson, just because the trade kerfuffle that went on before he was picked, and then that big pick.
Wait. What did you say? Kerfuffle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. No, I'm just shouting it out. Sorry. Get you off your train of thought, but that was beautiful.
Are you questioning my word choice?
I'm not questioning it. I'm just, I'm praising it. Kerfuffle. I'm going to use that today in an article.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of noise, because they traded up to get him, and again, you can't take anything away from the guy. But just, and Kobie Turner was just a kind of an unknown name coming into the year, and the Rams defense specifically wasn't getting a lot of attention. So unfortunately for him, he's just kind of fighting an uphill battle against it. But we'll see next year what happens. I think that's as the body of work continues to grow, if he's able to continue this trajectory that he's on, he's going to have a phenomenal career. So, we're always going to sound like homers because we're defending our guy, and we just watch a lot more Rams than I think a lot of the rest of the national media does. So then there wasn't a clear and decisive winner for it. There wasn't anybody that really blew everybody out of the water. So he's, like I said, he's just fighting an uphill battle. Had he had this same trajectory from week 1 rather than week 7 or 8 or whatever it was that he just really started to come on. But just another feather in the cap of the Rams. They have the most rookie selections on the all rookie team, and none of them are first rounders. Everybody's, looking good. So
yeah,
I think, great job.
Yeah, absolutely. You look, as we mentioned, we'll just give the numbers. When you look statistically, Will Anderson, great year, 40 total tackles, 34 of those solo, with 7 sacks. Kobie Turner finished with 45 tackles, 32 solo. PFF is saying 11 sacks. I feel like that's not accurate.
They always pump their sack numbers up a little bit.
Yeah. But he had 9.5 actually, or 10?
9.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know where the 11 came from, but either way, more than Will Anderson. The one lone difference really was pressures. And you look at Kobie Turner with 48 and Will Anderson with 59, but that's coming from a, edge position versus a interior defensive lineman. So yeah, I think it was a little bit of draft stock bias and a little bit of Kobie Turner playing next to Aaron Donald. And for whatever reason, they're saying that maybe had something to do with it. So I think Kobie Turner should have won this one. I think he should win the big one. This is probably an indicator of how how the NFL honors awards will go as well, I bet. So unfortunate, but hey, still made the all rookie team. he's number one in our hearts here in Los Angeles. He's the rookie of the year in our hearts, and just a tremendous season. So hats off to all those Rams rookies and this Les Snead draft class that is just, I think, one of the best in the NFL this season. And we've seen enough now. We talked all season, Skinny, like, okay, it's looked great, but we got to see, it's a small sample size, and you got to stack years now. Can't just have one great year. But I think 17 games, 18 games with the playoff game, we've seen enough to say this is a really, really good draft class. And depending on how the coaching changes go this offseason, will probably only get better. So Kobie Turner, that being said, I'm going to be really interested to see what happens with his development now with Coach Henderson at USC. And obviously a big part, I think, of his improvement was the back half of the year after being in that coaching stable with Coach Henne and obviously having the tutelage of Aaron Donald and whatnot. But who the Rams bring in to be the new D-line coach and to kind of continue his projection or his profession, I think will be really interesting to make sure he doesn't get stagnant, but continues to just rise that level. That'll be kind of the next interesting domino to fall.
Yeah, definitely. And just to put a cap on it, this Les Snead draft class for this Pro Football's Writers of America all rookie team, Steve Avila, second round, Kobie Turner, Byron Young, and Puka Nacua, all making the all rookie team. Most selections for any team on this roster. So just a fantastic job by Les Snead. Heading into this year's draft, 2024 draft, 10 picks already, including that first rounder. But last week, Les Snead had his season-ending press conference with the gaggle there. And made some interesting news. He still vows that he will, in fact, F those picks. He'll trade that first round pick for something. We don't know what he's interested in that. But what are your thoughts just on what he might want to do with that first round draft pick? Is he picking up a defensive piece with that? Is he picking up an offensive piece? Or do you think he would trade back and add to that 10, that already big stable? Last year he had 11 picks. This year he's got 10. He could add to that by trading back. What are your thoughts? What do you think he would do? What do you want him to do?
Yeah, I know. I love that he's just leaning into that mantra and just like reps it hard, like a badge of honor, as he should. It's ironic, and we're getting a piece up on LAFB Network on this, how, Brandon Beane, GM of the Bills, little less than a year ago, I think it was in March of last year, came out and said like we're going to build this team the right way so we don't end up like the Rams situation, and like notably called out the Rams and how they roster constructed, and that they were going to be in hell basically this year, not just for the cap, but in terms of talent discrepancy because of what they had to do in offloading all their talent. And, they ultimately one more playoff game and are both home now. And now they're in cap hell because they're paying Josh Allen $47 million or whatever starting next year. So I think Les Snead has proven that when you have a capable quarterback, not just capable, a very good quarterback, you have one of the best cultural and offensive minds as a head coach, and you have a front office that fully supports your vision and your buy-in, you can really kind of do whatever you want and have success. Now, obviously, you want to have more success than they had this year of just one playoff game. The goal is always Super Bowls, especially with someone like Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay. But to be able to have that turnover in 1 year, still make the playoffs, and now go into 24 with all that ammo to be not just a true contender, but maybe the top contender in the NFC, depending on what happens with San Francisco and whatnot this offseason, is truly remarkable. So long-winded to get to your actual question.
Quick point on the Bills. They are currently $43 million in the red when it comes to the salary cap, fourth worst in the league. And the Rams are $25 million under the cap right now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Why do GMs even say stuff like that? Like, they don't know we can just look up the numbers. Like, we can just look where they're actually at.
Not only that, but there's only 32 teams. Like, if Mr. Bean loses his job, in the next couple of years, it's just, it's a small world. Don't burn any bridges. Don't call anybody out before you're sure how good your team is going to be. It's not like Les Snead is out there calling anybody out.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
and teams teams like the Niners are kind of copying the Rams formula and going like the all-in approach and adding top-tier talent in free agency. So where do they, I should have this in front of me, but right now as it stands, are they sitting at 19
19.
overall?
Yep.
Pick? 19.
Yep.
19 is a tough spot because obviously this is going to be a quarterback heavy draft class. And so there's the definite chances of a premier player like you wrote an article on it, like a Latu potentially falling to them at 19, which would be a slam dunk. Like that, I'd be like, do not trade 19. Like if you can get a Latu, but there's also teams like I know the Broncos sitting at 12, and I think Mel Kiper's mock, just not that I'm not saying Mel Kiper's the source for all news, but Mel Kiper's mock came out and he had the Broncos taking Latu at 19. And so, which I, knowing the Broncos, I don't think that's a huge need as edge rush. But again, if you have a Latu there, you might get him. But anyway, that being said, I'm really curious what can happen at 19 because of all the quarterbacks, the run of quarterbacks we'll see go. That being said, the positions that I think they need the most in terms of corner and edge, as we talked on our last show, are probably the two biggest ones early in those rounds. It's maybe not, and I haven't dove deep into draft coverage yet, so I may correct this stance in a month. But those don't seem like extremely deep classes, at least at the top of the draft. So if a Kool-Aid McKinstry, if some of these other guys end up going early, and they hold at 19, they may get a player that doesn't necessarily fill their needs. And they might just go BPA, or that's when they would trade back, I think. So, but based on trading the first round before the draft for top end talent, let me just toss it back to you since I've already been talking. Is there a player out there that you could see them prioritizing off the top of your head? We haven't dove a ton of research, but when you have guys like Brian Burns and Josh Allen in free agency, like you don't need to trade for those guys. I haven't totally looked at the corner market yet, as we'll get into that more, but I don't know if there's necessarily a corner out there that they need to go and trade a first round pick to go and get an ad and whatnot. So I just don't know if there's value out there to ditch a first round pick for, an already locked in position player. But what do you think?
Well, I did write a little article about this and threw some names out there, and some of them are a little bit crazy. But when you're talking first round picks, a lot of teams are going to value that very highly. So offensively, I identified a couple of positions that they could go after, tight end being one of them, and the names that I picked there are Kyle Pitts and T.J. Hawkinson. Now, the Falcons are kind of going through some rebuilding there. And it depends on, he's in the last year of his contract. Maybe he wants to get out of there. He hasn't really been utilized. He wasn't utilized by Arthur Smith. Is he going to be utilized similarly? You look at Minnesota, they might be going into a full rebuild depending on what they want to do with Kirk Cousins. So those are kind of interesting names for me. Wide receiver is something. George Pickens and Deontay Johnson have both talked about, their displeasure with being in Pittsburgh, not getting enough targets there, not getting enough touches. Devontae Adams, what's going on in Las Vegas is, these are just kind of names that have, they might want to get out of there. Rasul Douglas and Paulson Adebo as cornerbacks, Harold Landry and Alex Highsmith. These are all just kind of names that I'm pulling out of a hat, just thinking that maybe there's a way that they could be dislodged. I don't know if they're available. I don't know if they want to be traded, but all of those players are kind of in a position where their teams are kind of in flux right now. We're not really sure what's happening in Pittsburgh. We're not really sure, getting high end edge talent is probably the hardest one out there.
And
finding it. Yeah, exactly.
In terms of draft capital or salary.
Yeah. And so that might be their best option to get a established producer at edge rusher. So I kind of like it for that idea. And all of those are just, I'm not saying that they're all possible, but you think back to, Jalen Ramsey was unhappy playing for the Jaguars, and he went for a first rounder. So
two, I believe,
Yeah, 2.
He was
So
also, I
I
think,
think
only 24 at the time, so age makes a difference too, obviously.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so he's vowed to do it, and the door is open to do it, and it opens the door to all kinds of exciting trades, and those guys, especially on the defensive side, I don't think you're finding that. You're not finding that in the draft, and also tight end is a position that takes years to kind of develop and get comfortable in that position. So getting a tight end that knows how to operate in the offense, that can, Tyler Higbee might be out for a chunk of the season, and he kind of turned into glass. So finding a qualified replacement for him, it might become a top priority sooner than
You got
later.
no faith in Davis Allen?
I've got a lot of faith in Davis Allen. We can talk about Nick Caley as well, who's getting some attention as a offensive coordinator position. He's the Rams tight ends coach currently, which maybe we can pivot talking about the coaching changes that they might be facing. But yeah, I mean, those are just my thoughts on trading back as some of the ideas that could become Rams players.
Yeah, we'll percolate over and look way deeper. We'll have an episode probably here soon where we really dive into some potential targets. This was a topic we wanted to just touch on quickly, so I apologize that it's not like super thought out, but just because Les Snead did say it in his exit interview, kind of like, it gets you thinking. And I think just on the surface, go after Brian Burns or Josh Allen in free agency, see what that market's going to look like and cost. You wrote an article on it. Burns is going to cost, most, if not all of the available cap space. But if you think that's enough of a game changer to add to the roster, then you go do it. And then you keep all your picks, so you don't have to worry about it. In terms of trading for a player, off the top of my head, the only one that I think is worth picking up the phone for right now, again, we'll dive deeper into it, so I'll probably change the stance. And it's been reported many times that this team has no interest in moving on from him, but I would at least call the Broncos about Pat Surtain, because that's like the true young, dominant corner, and a team that is in a lot of flux about what their future is going to look like in terms of, Russell Wilson and quarterback, and maybe if they can double down on some first round picks, they can trade up and go get a quarterback. So, it could be an enticing phone call of like, hey, what do you want for Pat in terms of helping your offense and giving Sean Payton what he needs on offense. I don't think the Broncos will do it. They've said many times, like, Pat's like the cornerstone of the team, but that would be the only one in terms of trading that first round pick. I would feel good about the Rams picking up the phone and calling right now on the surface.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea as well. Definitely worth a phone call or two. See what the Broncos are thinking, and just to kind of round out the exit interview, the year end interview. He's fully confident that the weight bearing walls, as he likes to call them, are returning. Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, they're all coming back. That's all good news. Sean McVay has also expressed that he's back. He's full in. He's not talking about moving to media just quite yet at the moment. Big news kind of in terms of wanting to re-sign players, extending Ernest Jones, and they want to keep Kevin Dotson. No word on Demarcus Robinson yet, though. Your thoughts on any of those kind of bullet points?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, we've talked about it before. Huge priority to get Jones and Dotson back. I mean, that's got to be, if the Rams don't sign any big name guys, but re-sign those, I think it's a win this free agency. I think that's the biggest thing they got to make sure they happen. And if that uses all the cap, then so be it, because I think they're that important. Kevin Dotson was that good in the offensive line, and Ernest Jones is basically the new kind of face of the defense. And I know you are bullish on him, and we thought he was snubbed from the Pro Bowl based on not just his statistics, but his style of play and what he means to this defense. So those have to be priority 1A and 1B, I think. Coleman Shelton, I think I saw, has like an option on his contract that he can opt out of. So potentially need to re-sign him or go look at the center market. I would be bullish on bringing him back just to keep the continuity there of a group that was finally starting to gel and play well. But to me, we talked about Brian Burns, we talked about Josh Allen, we talked about trading for Pat Surtain. In my opinion, and the fact that Les Snead actually mentioned this, which I don't think he does often, those are the most important things first and foremost. Dotson, Jones, even Shelton, and then you can go outside the doors and look open. But I hope they really do prioritize those, and it seems like they are.
Yeah, definitely. And last thing I'll mention on the Les Snead thing is he started it off with a 3-minute effusive praise of Raheem Morris. He wants him out the door. He wants him hired. He wants Raheem to have a head coaching opportunity again. And you and I are both on the record. We love what he's done. I've seen in other media saying that maybe 2023 wasn't his best effort with the defense, and I would just completely say that the complete opposite is taking all of these this ragtag group, this young group, inexperienced group, everything that we've said all season, just done a phenomenal job. And go watch it, because he just talks about, one, how good of a person he is, how he connects with everybody in the building, from the kit man up to Stan Kroenke. Probably everybody loves this guy. I've hollered to him from the sidelines of training camp, and he always gives me a big smile and says what's up, and just that's the kind of guy you want leading the team. He praised his football IQ and just his IQ in general as a incredibly smart human being that just chose football as his profession. So, I don't know if there's a lot more we can say about that. So, the coaching carousel is spinning and people are getting hired. So we'll see what happens.
Always is. No, I love that. And, McVay has even said that, and I think Les maybe even echoed this, how Raheem Morris was a huge factor in getting McVay just through the 2022 season, able to kind of lean on him, his friendship, his tutelage, his football leadership when McVay was kind of going through those dark times a bit in 22, and Raheem Morris really stepped up and took over some responsibility, but also was just a factor in off the field and helping McVay get through it. And what I love about this organization, and what I love about covering this organization, is everyone talks about the McVay tree and everyone wanting to go pluck coaches from them. And obviously their success in the field, alludes to that. But I think the way that they run from a leadership standpoint and the way they prop and praise their coaches up needs to be noted, because while other coaches might, or other organizations, might almost hide some of their coordinators or block from interviewing. I mean, think back to even after McVay's first year, Matt LaFleur went from the Rams OC to the Titans OC. It was a lateral move, but he went from being the Rams OC to being able to call the plays, the Titans OC, and then 1 year later, he's the Green Bay Packers head coach. The Rams could have blocked that. I mean, that was McVay's friend. That was kind of his driving force as a first-time head coach. And they say, no, go get yours, and we want to see you grow and blossom. And Brandon Staley, after 1 year, gets head coach. They couldn't obviously block that, but it's like they are the driving force as an organization to prop up their coaches. And I know there's been, and we've talked about it, there's been interesting situations where they might not promote from within. And so that's kind of an interesting talking point. And we talked about, I think on the last show, or maybe 2 shows ago, about after, Coach Henderson leaving for USC. And I think there's a different thought process. I don't want to dive too much into. We talked about, I think it's more of bringing in different thinkers into coordinators as opposed to elevating the same thought mind that don't challenge you. We saw the disaster in Philly, right? Like they lose both their coordinators last year. They promote from within, from a DB coach and a QB coach, and it's just a disaster. Now both those coaches are gone, and they're bringing in different thought processes to kind of replace that. I think the Rams and McVay have said, we're going to bring someone else in to be the coordinators, but we want all of our guys and position coaches to get elevated throughout the league based on what we're teaching here culturally. So don't want to get long-winded, but I just think it's so impressive from a leadership standpoint what this organization does for their brass and how they're able to prop up all their coaches and players. And, we may see a decade from now when, the entire league has Rams influence, throughout it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's amazing already to see just how many guys are out there. Shane Waldron just moved from Seattle over to the Bears, and you got Kevin O'Connell and LaFleur, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere now, and it'll continue to be that way. And speaking of which, the New England Patriots, Gerard Mayo, he wants to get his hands in the Rams business himself. He's getting
he should.
Quarterbacks coach Zach Robinson and Nick Caley, tight ends coach, who I talked about earlier, requested an interview with both of them. Nick Caley comes from New England. That was his last stop in the pros. So he knows Gerard Mayo pretty well. And, it's interesting, tight ends coach is one of those things that doesn't sound super important on a team, but you think about, Arthur Smith, he was a tight ends coach before he became OC. Sean McVay. Yeah. And, there's a reason that everybody likes listening to Greg Olson call games. It's because he knows so much about it. And tight ends, they really have to know, they need to know run blocking, pass blocking. They need to know their route trees. They need to know what the running backs are doing. They're just so integrated, and that's why it takes a while for tight ends to kind of catch on. A lot of times, Sam Laporta excused from that. He caught on pretty quickly.
Real quick,
but
just to cut it, that's a great point, and you could argue like the QB coach is always the sexy promotion to OC because they are sometimes they call plays, they're with the quarterback, but the success rate, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe we'll look into this for next episode, of the tight end coach is actually maybe quite a bit better. When you look at even Arthur Smith, who was the tight end coach for the Raiders, became the OC for the Chargers, now the OC for the Dolphins, and getting head coaching interviews. When you look at Dan Campbell was a tight end coach, played tight end also. So, I mean, you mentioned Sean McVay, you mentioned Arthur Smith, who obviously didn't have a lot of success as a head coach, but was a good OC with the Titans before getting promoted. And on down the line, we could maybe look, but it's a great point. And so Nick Caley is probably a name that not a lot of people know, but he's getting interviews, and Zach Robinson, another one that's they're both going to be tough to hang on to.
Yeah. Well, and just to finish up on Caley, he also coached at. He was a graduate assistant at John Carroll, which John Carroll has become this just grab basket for coaches across the league, which is really fascinating, and I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
But he also coached, going through college, he also coached on the defensive side, which is just a rarity. You don't see guys jumping back and forth between the two. Raheem Morris is a guy that did that a little bit, but not to the extent that Caley did. So, he's going to be tough to hang on to. Zach Robinson worked for Shane Waldron. He's actually a homegrown product through LA. He was he played quarterback at Oklahoma State under the Gundy spread offense coaching tree or offense, and then just jumped on board with the Rams in 2019, I want to say. So he worked with Shane Waldron, Kevin O'Connell, and he's kind of going up the ranks of that quarterback coach thing. Shane Waldron and O'Connell both did as well. So yeah, this is nothing new. This is nothing new for the Rams. Unfortunately, they'll have to probably replace at least one of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, you look, they'll replace one of those guys. They're going to have to replace, obviously, Henderson, and then they might be replacing Raheem Morris. So nothing new. Always a challenge, but it's always fascinating what they do. So, but with that, we'll wrap up this episode of the Rams Skinny. Hope everyone has had a great week. If there's any certain topics you want us to do, drop it in the comments or hit us up on Twitter at RL Anderson LAFB, at Ryan Dyer LAFB, where you can hit the main account at LAFB Network or the Rams specific account at Rams_LAFB. Obviously, YouTube is Rams LAFB. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're almost to 1,000, trying to get there. We're getting great viewership. We're getting great engagement. We love it. Just want to get over 1,000, and then we can just keep building from there. So shameless shout out there. If you guys could help us out, that would mean the world to us. And obviously, all of our Rams coverage is on LAFBnetwork.com, where our good managing editor here, Skinny T, does a ton of Rams coverage, as do I, as do some of our other writers. So great stuff as always, Skinny T. Appreciate you, as always. Hair looks great, as always. The hoodie looks great, as always. You have a great day. Everyone out there, have a great day. Oh, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I wasn't. I was just popping the collar because I'm proud of this. I'm proud of what we've built. And, just thank you to everybody out there watching. I cannot believe that we're in this position that we're in. It's just amazing. And, if you want to interact on YouTube, I'll definitely get in the comments there. A lot of love in there so far.
Yeah, well, it's been cool. And last thing I'll say is, this particular show, the Rams Skinny, we started from 0 in September. So, I mean, it's only been about 6 months. And so super appreciative of everyone. I'm not one of those guys that likes to drop our YouTube numbers or page views on Twitter. I don't see the need for that, but I'll say it here on the show. Just we appreciate it because we certainly helps us out. And this is what, we do for a living. So we appreciate everyone. And let's keep the train moving, as I guess the old people say that now. It's not even a young thing anymore, right? Keep the train moving. Showing our age.
Keep the hoverboard moving. I don't know.
Yeah, keep it pushing. I don't know. But anyway, thank you all. Have a great week. We'll be back later in the week. We'll probably dive a lot more into some free agent prospects. Maybe that'll be our coverage we'll do unless any breaking news happens. But yeah, thank you all. Stay blessed. Stay good. We'll talk to y'all in a couple days.